Picture this. You go to the grocery store to buy a box of cereal that last week cost you $1. This week, it costs you $5. Why is this? No, this is not a result of inflation, but instead a product of trade barriers. Trade, especially free trade, is one of the foundations of having a good economy. So why would we build up barriers to this trade? We as consumers benefit from imports as other nations could produce them at a lower cost than we could, meaning there will be better quality, higher quantities, and a cheaper price of these products. Being an economics major, I've done extensive research on this topic, and my own personal interest has prompted me to give this speech. Trade barriers are a danger to consumers and producers, and we have the power to influence economic policy that will offer a fair future for economies and for the world market. This is a complex issue, but I hope to break it down. So why are trade barriers so bad? Well, one, they lead to trade wars, which is basically what we've recently been involved with China. Domestic producers are losing out on business as they're not able to export their goods to nations such as China. And we're also not importing goods from China, which we do a lot of, meaning that domestic producers are having to take over that role and produce the same amount of goods with less resources, meaning prices are higher and products are having a shortage. Now, imagine that we have this same relationship with every other nation. This may seem drastic, but it is also always a possibility. President Trump's plan to impose 10% tariffs on China can cause lasting effects on consumers. Kathy Bozadik, a chief economist at Oxford Economics, states that tariffs could cost the average household another $650 a year. This number may not seem that severe, but that's only the average. It really depends on the person. People could be spending way more or less. It really depends on how much income you bring in. Overall, it just means that we are going to be having to spend more money that we wouldn't have if we were practicing free trade. Furthermore, an extended trade war could be bad news for the overall economy. Businesses may hold off of investing in new plants hiring until trade deals are in place. Such a pullback could lead to slower job growth, and it could in turn affect consumer spending. This is the biggest driver of the U.S. economy. This would be concern, Bozadik also states. Basically what that's saying is domestic producers, businesses cannot afford to hire workers if they're not selling enough goods because the consumers can't afford them, meaning people are losing out of jobs, consumers are not being able to buy products, and the economy is just on a downward spiral. And as college students, our lives are expensive enough with tuition and rent and all these basic necessities that we have to purchase. So what happens if we can't afford them anymore? Trade barriers are really dangerous and have no benefits. So before I explain what you can do to stop trade barriers, I'm going to explain what a few of them are. First, tariffs are taxes that are imposed by the government on imported goods and services. Non-tariffs are measures such as quality and content requirements for imported goods or subsidies to local producers, and quotas are restrictions that limit the quantity that can be imported. You as a consumer aren't implementing these policies, obviously. I mean, you're not a politician. However, you're voting for the politicians that do. Basically, what you can do about this is doing your research on certain bills, doing your research on who you're voting for, seeing what they support, and if that protects your interests. And most importantly, voicing your concerns. No one wants to see a world where there's no trade. So it's our job to really voice our concerns and protect our interests. The U.S. tariff policy states that the current administration has been openly critical of low tariff policies and has made greater use of discretionary authority to increase tariffs on certain goods and goods imported from key U.S. trading partners. This basically just sums up the idea that we're electing officials who aren't protecting our interests, and in order to protect the future of this economy, it's important to keep in mind who those officials are and what they're supporting. Many people will tell you that your vote doesn't matter. However, that does have some truth to it. Some people will also say that there's only so much you can do. Also has some truth. However, this is only This only has grounding in small instances, such as if one person decides they're not going to vote. Yeah, that one person wasn't going to decide the vote anyway, but if everybody has this mindset, then that does create an issue. So instead of being the person who's deciding whether they should forfeit their power and their right to vote and to make things better, instead we can all do what we have the power to ensure a better society. Now, this was a lot of information, but maybe visualizing the future will help sum it all up. So, what would a world with free trade look like? This idea is best explained by the topic of comparative advantage, which basically states that different countries can produce certain products at a lower cost than others, which is why we have trade. So, in a world of free trade, the United States is importing goods that it can't produce and exporting goods that it can, meaning it's bringing in money, sending out money, consumers are happy, producers are happy. There is also the issue of cost, which states that if an economy protects its domestic industry by increasing tariffs, industries will not have incentives to cut costs. So if we're increasing tariffs on other countries and just producing everything domestically, then there's no competition, which means businesses can charge you as much as they want, which means prices are definitely going to be high. It's just more efficient to have free trade. Now, in a world full of trade barriers, we will see high prices on everyday goods, civil unrest, trade wars. And in a world where we see reduced trade barriers, we'll see that nations are practicing trade, producing at the lowest cost they can, and there'll be cheaper priced products in the markets. Overall, it's just more efficient. With all this information in mind, I hope this offered a new perspective on the issue. As consumers, it's our job to protect our goods and our interests and industries, as we are the ones who are impacted the most by these policies. I intend to be aware of these issues myself in order to provide the same relief I'm asking of you guys. So the next time you go to the grocery store and buy that box of cereal, just know that this low price may not be permanent. So it's important to keep informed and protect your interests.